Welcome into the Burgers Smokehouse PowerMizzou.com dance class after a 68-65 Missouri win over Alabama in a showdown of the top two teams in the SEC standings coming into today. And as it turns out, the top two teams in the SEC standings coming out of today. Before we get too far into this one, I want to point out the logo in the upper right-hand corner, Burger Smokehouse. You can find them online at smokehouse.com. You can follow them on Twitter at Smokehouse Meats. They provide us the ability to do this show after every game, provide you guys an outlet to talk about this team. Sorry if there was an echo there. I've got that fixed. But Burger Smokehouse, always good. Always. I've actually got some bacon I'm going to use for dinner tonight. And anywhere that you do your grocery shopping in the state of Missouri, you can pick their products up and have a good meal. So once again, smokehouse.com. Check them out. Look, I'm not going to tell you how to feel about that game. I don't think there's a wrong way to feel about that game because I don't know how I feel about that game. I understand if your viewpoint is they beat a top 10 team and they did it without Javon Pickett and they did it despite not playing very well for the last 10 minutes of the game, that's great. That's all valid. If your viewpoint is, oh my God, what happened in the last 6 minutes of the game, and that scares me about what's going to happen in any game the rest of the year with this team, that's also valid. I don't think either one of those points of view are wrong. I think for 27 minutes, Missouri looked absolutely every bit of a top 10 team. They did anything they wanted to. Drew Smith was dynamic. Jeremiah Tillman was taking up space. Mitchell Smith was coming up big at the right time. Kobe Brown was pitching in. They looked great for 27 minutes. And then they led by 20 points with 6 minutes left, and it was almost as if you just said, okay, Missouri has made every good play it's allowed to make, and Alabama has made every bad play it's allowed to make, and it just completely flipped. Alabama finished that game on a 21-4 run. Missouri made one good play in the final 6:15, I thought, and that was Mitchell Smith's block shot with 4.1 seconds to go. And look, I'm just going to be honest. I thought Drew Smith committed a foul before Mitchell Smith made the block. I didn't think Missouri's defense was very good on the last three-pointer by Alabama that had a chance to tie the game. Thought they should have guarded the inbounds. I thought the first pass came in too easily, and I thought Drew Smith could have been called for another foul. But they won the game, 68-65, over a team that nobody else in the SEC had beaten. Alabama's closest game before this in the SEC was 4 points. They had only two closer than 10, and their average margin of victory was 16.3. So I'm not going to come on here and be overly negative for the next hour, but I don't know how I feel about it. I need more time than the 20 minutes I've had to process that game. And so I'm going to give myself about 10 more minutes to process it, because what we're going to do, like we do every week here, or every game day here, we're going to play you Cuonzo Martin's post-game press conference. It lasts about 10, 12 minutes. You can listen to Coach. We asked him, I think, about all the relevant things, and he gave his answers. You can listen to Coach Martin. We'll come back. We'll talk about it. We'll take your calls. We'll do all that. We'll break it down. Once again, Missouri 68, Alabama 65, and here's Cuonzo Martin.
Thought it was a great performance, even the last, 3+ minutes of the game. I told our guys I'm real proud of them. And I know it's a long season, but oftentimes you have to celebrate these type of moments because they don't come often. We have a program that beat 3 top 10 teams in the country. That says a lot about your program. It says a lot about your personnel, your staff, your players, the organization, and the time, the commitment, all those things, man. So you can't overlook the fact that hard-fought game, against a great team program. A team, no doubt in my mind, if healthy, have every shot to win it all because they can score it, they can handle it, they can drive the ball, they can shoot it, have skill, experience, great coaching. Again, I'm really happy for our guys, man. It's a great win.
Okay, we'll go to questions. Natalie Jones, first up. Hey, Coach, you kind of said what I was going to say here. 3 wins over top 10 teams. You said it says a lot about your program, but to you, what does it say?
Oh, man, just say, for me, again, this is hard. Coaching is hard, and I'm grateful. So I mean hard from the standpoint of making sure everybody's all on the same page, making sure there's one common goal, making sure that we have, accountability in the right way. We're able to tell the truth to each other in a respectful manner. To have gratitude, to be appreciative of what we have. Have compassion for your teammates when things aren't going well, because you got guys that work extremely hard and they don't play. So have compassion and respect for that. And you got to have a love for your teammates, not just your players, but the staff, because the staff put a lot of time into this, watching film, numerous amounts of hours to get to this point. So for me, it's just a part of my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. But it's not the only thing for me, not just winning games. I want to make sure and see our young men through that they can have successful lives, successful careers on and off the court. And that's not easy because everybody doesn't play. So again, grateful, happy for our guys. But for me, it's the next day, and I'll do everything in my power to try to celebrate today and not watch any film outside of what's on TV and relax. And then I'll go to my daughter's volleyball game in Kansas City tomorrow, and then we go from there.
Colin O'Brien.
Cuonzo, what happened on offense there down the last 6 minutes? Just so like you're settling for jump shots and not getting to the rim so much?
Well, that was easy. I think that was easy. I don't think Jeremiah was as assertive in posting because of the doubles and all those things. And like I told him, I said, man, that goes with the territory. When you're an elite level, low post guy, that physical, they're not going to allow you to beat them. They're going to make other people beat it. So he has to stay aggressive, stay assertive, take the double team, whatever happens, find open guys. And I thought what happened, he settled in being aggressive in posting because of that. And I thought our guys settled because they looked at the score instead of finishing the game on the floor. And you can't do that with this level of team, with the way they drive the ball and make plays. And that just showed you that. But again, on the flip side, tremendous execution defensively down the stretch in those last several possessions.
Ben Frederickson.
Hey, Zo, congrats.
Thank you.
Curious about the game plan, because it would have been maybe thought of that you guys would try to slow this down and maybe try to compete with their three-point shooting, but you guys played your best when you were doing the opposite of that. Was that your plan going in, and how did you decide to attack them in that way?
No question. We never had any doubt in our mind to make it a slow-paced game. That's not who we are anymore. We want to speed this game. We want to play basketball. Part of it, I think me slowing the guys down just a little bit, because I thought we got excited in some areas instead of keeping our foot on the pedal. I thought we got excited, not aggressive. Then they turned the heat up, and then we became passive. So I have more to blame for that than the players. So I got to be better in that area. But no, we had no intentions of walking the ball up the court. We wanted to make this a fast-paced game and be aggressive and be physical.
Follow up, if I could. What about that? Just the block by Mitchell Smith. Your thoughts on that play?
Well, I think the impressive thing about that play, the guys were sound, they were locked and loaded, they were keen on their assignment. I thought Drew did a great job of jumping to force the subtle shot fake, and then Mitch came behind and made a play. So Drew did a great job of jumping straight up. So he had to go against that. And then once he shot faked enough, Mitch made a play on it. But more importantly, even that, X did a good job of being around the ball. We had 5 guys around the ball. And that's not an easy thing to do with a team that shoots the ball as well as they shoot it.
Eric Blum.
Cuonzo, a follow-up on Mitch. Obviously, that was a big moment for him, but just can you explain what exactly he means to your team, and just what could this moment do for his confidence moving forward?
Well, I'm hopeful that a man, as a senior in the program, doesn't lose confidence, because I'm not the type of guy to try to take your confidence, and he knows what he brings to our team. But the Mitch in the last 2 games, that's the Mitch we're accustomed to seeing. And like I said to you guys before, Mitch is like that American Express card. You can't leave home without it. Now, he hadn't been that lately, so my balance was overdue, But the last couple games, he's been that American Express card. He's done a great job. That's the old Mitch we used to seeing.
Mason.
Hey, Coach. So it looked like the team was really getting into the passing lane with deflecting or intercepting balls. Was that a focus that you wanted to instill, especially with Alabama being as good as they are at perimeter shooting?
Well, again, you're talking about, in my opinion, they're not a good team, they're a great team. But I think we're a really good team. So now we were not going to play a passive game where we sitting back and allow those guys to move. You allow them to move the ball around, dribble, penetrate, then they would have had 85 points on you. You can't allow that to happen. You got to be assertive. You got to be aggressive. You got to get in the ball and force those guys to make one-on-one plays the whole night. And you'll give up something because that's what you do when you're playing against talented teams. You have to give up something. But the goal is not allow that ball just to swing around it, and they just throwing darts at the rim.
Joel?
Hey, Coach, that meltdown was kind of similar to what happened down there at Mississippi State earlier in the year. Did you ever get that feeling at one point? And what growth does it show that this time you guys were able to close it out?
Again, just the maturity of a team to stay locked in. What makes me proud more than anything, obviously those are huge free throws by X, but I wasn't shocked at all with the free throws X shot. But I think what makes me proud to get those stops, those last couple possessions, to get the real settle down, buckle down, and get stops, and we did that. So that speaks volumes about our guys, the growth of our guys, and they believe. They believe. Again, it's tough. You're playing against a good team, but just those two stops were impressive.
Mitchell 40?
Cuonzo, speaking of getting stops, Alabama shot 11 of 23 on layups. I guess just throughout the game, what did you all feel like you did so well to keep them from finishing at the rim?
Well, we just talk about put your chest on the ball. Put your chest on the ball, don't swipe down, and jump high. Jump high, because, again, I think they're great at when they dribble, penetrate, you help, they find guys for three. If that's the case, you got to chest to chest, make that drive hard, show your hands, jump high, make them guys go over the top of you all night long. And I thought our guys did not an average job, but an exceptional job of doing that. And that's not an easy thing to do when you have guys that can make plays off the dribble and shoot the ball. That's a hard thing to defend.
Dave Matter?
Hey, Cuonzo, I know you don't get consumed with who's scoring the points, but a week ago, Tillman and X combined for almost 70 points. And today, they're just not as major factors. Again, does that just kind of point to the balance of this team? You never quite know who it is that's going to step up and be that guy for you?
I think so. Without question, they could really care less who scores the ball, who does that. Just, I mean, it's basketball. We take advantage of situations. We're in attack mode. We're aggressive. It's good to see Mark Smith aggressive out there, looking at the rim. He was 1 for 8 from 3, but he was aggressive, and you need that. It was a game where Javon couldn't go, so you're talking about a toughness guy that you don't have in a game like this. That's not easy. Next guy just stepped up.
Gabe?
Cuonzo, what was the defensive approach on the last Alabama shot? Did you consider fouling and then talk about not guarding the
When we were up 3, no, not at all. We didn't consider fouling. We were going to sit down and play defense and make it tough, everything over the top. And there's certain things we talk about where what we're giving up. We'd give up a layup and take our chances of taking the ball out with 2 seconds left, but we're not giving up clean threes, no.
Swoochie?
Cuonzo, I guess what was working so well in the paint for you guys on the offense? It seemed like you guys are getting good looks, even when maybe Jeremiah wasn't, getting as many touches.
Driving the ball, just being aggressive. Driving the ball, playing off instincts. And again, once you turn the corner, if Jeremiah's in the game, it's very hard for them to step up and help with most teams because they know he's a low post scorer and he's a great rebounder. So now our guys, we talk about all the time, focus on your target when you turn the corner at the rim, because in most cases, if you're looking at the glass and trying to make the shot or dunk in the basketball, you have a great shot at getting it, because most teams are not going to leave Jeremiah to help off because they know we throw the lob pass and all that. So our guys, we spend a lot of time on turning the corner, finishing at the rim.
Jack Sobel?
Cuonzo, Mark Smith exited the game for a sub in the first half, and he got a standing ovation from the crowd. You touched on this a bit? What did you see from him in the first half, and how can you get that out of him going forward?
I think you can get it out. I think, again, he's at, in my opinion, even though he's 1 for 8, I thought he played a good game. He had 5 steals. I thought he was aggressive. When he was struggling, I don't think he was defending at the level. And I thought he did a great job defending today. So I don't think he was defending at the level. And I thought he was consumed with his shot, not falling. Not that I want shots and need shots, but his shot wasn't falling. And I think that took precedent over all the other stuff that made him a good basketball player. And I thought today you saw it on defense, driving the ball, shooting his 3, getting steals, being physical. That's the Mark Smith we know.
We have time for a couple more. We're going to go Joe Waljesper.
Cuonzo, in some of the later timeouts as the league was slipping away, what messages were you giving in those timeouts?
maintain your composure. Oftentimes it's whatever taking place at that current time. Rig yourself back in. And this is one of those deals, you know, you play a lot of different teams, but this is one of those teams where they have 5 guys on the floor that are weapons. Can dribble, pass it, shoot it. And then the one that probably doesn't shoot a lot, Herb Jones, is probably the best at making plays for other guys. And it makes it very hard because we had Mitch on him down the stretch. That was one of the main reasons why we took Tillman out. We just felt like that matchup wouldn't work because Mitch can defend that. And that's not easy. And, you know, just really whatever it is, composure. But I thought our guys got a little tight and just, you know, instead of finishing the game. And I thought we settled when we missed shots. I thought we hung around the rim a little bit instead of sprinting back on defense like we did in the first half. And all of a sudden they got their heads up, different ball game.
We're going to go last 2 questions for Coach. Mitchell?
Cuonzo, I know the other day you kind of joked that your team had been lucky in that it just kept finding ways to win close games. But do you feel like, you know, there's something to the fact that their confidence builds that they can win in those situations the more it happens?
I don't think they've ever gone into a game thinking that they might lose the game. I don't think that's ever the case. It's just every game presents something differently. Next game, some Ole Miss, I hadn't seen a lot of them, but I know they 1-3-1 play zone. So everybody they play extremely hard. So everybody presents something differently. So we've never gone into the game thinking that. Is just, you know, playing the way we play, understanding this is how we win basketball games. And the great thing about our team, it doesn't matter who gets the shots. So now, however you think you defend it, okay, we're going to stop Jeremiah. Other guys are making plays. You allow Jeremiah to go one-on-one, then you're talking 20, 30 points a night. So just we have to defend, rebound, play hard all the time, and then offense, we have to share the ball. We do those things, we give ourselves a chance against anybody.
Last one for Coach, for Colin.
Cuonzo, you mentioned the steals a little bit. Just do you feel like you caught Alabama off guard with the defensive intensity and those 11 steals tonight?
No, I mean, Alabama, that's a great program. We're in the same league. They know we're just as good a defensive team as they are. So no, I don't think that's the case at all.
All right, so there is Cuonzo Martin after a 68-65 Alabama win. And look, I opened this talking for 5 minutes about I can't tell you how to feel about that game, right? Obviously, Cuonzo is going to take the optimistic approach, as well he should. He's the coach. He's building up his guys. They just beat a top 10 team. You don't want to harp on the negative too much. So, fully understand all his answers to those questions. Fully understand some people that might be a little bit more on the pessimistic side after that game. Just opened up the Skype line, so if you want to call us, there's the phone number there, 573-234-4935. Feel free to call. The phone calls always take precedence over everything else. We certainly we'll talk, we'll give you some stats, we'll go through the chat, the messages, all that, but if we get a phone call, we're always going to jump to that first. The other thing, if you call and I'm not shouting out your area code right away, I'm on the phone with somebody else, just hang on until we get to you. Every now and then, sometimes we try to merge calls and it doesn't always work. So if you call and you can't get through, just call back. We'll be here until you guys are done talking about this and we've covered everything that you guys want to cover. I mean, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. That's the benefit of an early game. We can go a little longer if we need to. And we are going to start on the phones with the 417 area code. Who's on the phone?
It's Mark. So
how you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. I got a research project for you here.
Okay.
I don't think I called last time to complain about Ken Palm and how low we were rated. Mm-hmm. And you went on to say it talks about, statistics of possessions and all that. Can you go back and find the last Missouri team that's led wire to wire as much as this team has? And it's like if you're playing golf, Gabe, and you're the leader on Thursday, how many people finish that tournament leading on Sunday? Right. And it's hard to withstand those things. And that's one of the things we're not getting credit for. Yeah. When you got, I think 4 of the last 5 games, it's like wire to wire winning it. Mm-hmm. And it's like that's somehow not being acknowledged. And so that's point one. And then point two, give Cuonzo credit for benching Tillman to bring in Mitchell Smith to play the pick and roll. Everybody knows, you're taking theoretically what ESPN would say is our best player, and you sat him out to have Mitchell Smith. So that's it.
Yeah, I think point one
and
is
I'll hang up.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the call, and I think Mark's first point is a great point. This is about the 4th time in 5 games that Missouri's led for like 37 minutes. And they've done that a number of times this season. So you play differently. I mean, that Kentucky game, it wasn't dominant necessarily. You won by 5, right? But they were always ahead all game, 3 to 9 points, kind of in that ballpark. And you play differently with a 5-point lead than you would in a tie game or in a 5-point deficit, right? Because they can't score 6 on one possession. So you do play it differently. And today, look, you play differently up 20 with 6 minutes to go than you would play up 3 with 6 minutes to go. You just do. It's human nature. And so that leads to a little bit of that score getting closer. And I agree with Mark. Missouri isn't getting enough credit in some of those systems because they keep winning games. And that is the ultimate goal, and they deserve more credit for that. I think that I read that Mizzou went up to number 29 on KenPom. They were number 30 on the net, or 32 in the net, I think, coming in. I think they'll go up. And Adam brings up a good point. I understand the luck stat, but there's something also to be said for winning close games. If we don't build a 22-point lead, that game isn't close in the end. Absolutely, right? I mean, to blow a 22-point lead, you have to get a 22-point lead. And that it goes back to, I don't know how to feel. Like, you can't discount the fact that Missouri had the 22-point lead. You also can't discount the fact that Missouri blew 21 of the 22 points, right? It's a really hard game to analyze and to think about, because I don't think there's any wrong way to do it other than, if you're saying, well, that might as well have been a loss. But no, but it wasn't. It was a win. They scored more points than the other team. That is the goal. As long as you end the game with more points than the other team, you at least have a semi-positive, right? Now, I understand being a little upset about certain things, but overall, it's still a net positive. 815 area code. Who's on the phone?
What's up, Gabe? It's Ron.
Hey, Ron. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Doing all right. Happy I had a little bit of a chance to take a deep breath and decompress after that game before calling into your show.
Yeah.
Wow, that I thought they were going to lose, and frankly, Mizzou should thank their lucky stars. They were lucky with not only just a capital L, but a capital Lucky to not get that foul call at the end and kind of stave off that Alabama comeback.
I mean, which foul call? Because I thought Drew Smith might have committed 2 in the last 30 seconds.
The one that led to Mitchell Smith's block, which was a thing of beauty. But let's be clear, that dude got fouled.
Yeah, I thought Drew Smith fouled him before Mitchell got there.
Yeah, they didn't call it, and you know what? They put themselves in position to win that game based on the first half dominance and the start of the second half, building that lead up to what it was. As that run was happening, I was getting ready to call into your show, talking about. I was in college during the Kim Anderson experience, and I've seen that team go the other way, where it's like they're the ones who are disinterested. They're getting blown out by a good team, and they were giving Alabama everything that they wanted. And I wasn't going to say that Alabama quit, but it looked like they were interested in being anywhere else other than in Mizzou Arena.
Yes, they looked uninterested for a lot of the game. Now, part of that is, a credit to Missouri. Missouri probably took some of their will, but that's what I've never – what you can never understand about sports is how all of a sudden did Alabama just say, okay, let's go. Let's start doing this, right? Because if you're Nate Oates, you're going, guys, you just destroyed them for 6.5 minutes. You could have won that game if you would have played even 9 minutes. What happened? So there's always two sides to it. But yeah, I agree.
Right.
Alabama just didn't look particularly like it had a lot of energy in the first 30 minutes.
Right. And it almost was like both Mizzou and Alabama both flipped the switch at the same time, where Mizzou was just going to coast a little bit. Alabama was going to play really hard. And I think that's why, we got to the end result that we did. But I think to a theme that you've been harping on for the last for pretty much throughout the season, and in particular these close games, you 100% do not apologize for winning a game like that. It's still a top 10 team. They were unbeaten in the SEC, and Missouri was the first one to do it. And when it gets to Selection Sunday or whatever that looks like this year, the committee doesn't go back and say, well, I mean, they did blow like that 20-point lead, but they still won. No, at the end of the day, they won, and that's really all that matters, I guess.
I mean, look, they're the only team to do this. Alabama was beating everybody by 16.3 points. Only 2 games were within double digits. So they played Alabama better than anybody else played Alabama, right? A lot of teams have played Alabama, and those last 6 minutes have been the whole game. I mean, Arkansas was down 30 to them in the first half. LSU got beat by 30. So it's just really hard to assess. Like, I completely – and here's what it does for me. It gives you hope that Missouri can be really good the rest of the season. But you know what it also does? Every time Missouri's up 20 the rest of the season, it's in the back of your head that can happen. And that's a tough place to be.
Right. Yeah, and just one more closing thought before I'll hop off. Just the way that they've won these games, like maybe they're not like a great team, but they are great at winning. They've pretty much led wire to wire these last couple games. They're doing it, from maybe so-so performances or maybe lackluster performances from Tillman and Pinson. Drew Smith was a star last game, and I guess he was the star this game, but
I don't know.
They're coming from behind. They're winning wire to wire. They're just good at winning, and that's a good place to be at when you're a Missouri fan. So thanks again, Gabe. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks, Ron. Appreciate it. Look, 100% agree. I mean, winning is a skill. At some point, winning all these close games cannot be a happy accident. You're not just lucky every game. Now, I think Missouri was a little bit lucky today, in some regards. I mean, in that first half, every single ball was bouncing Missouri's way. I mean, Alabama was catching balls, accidentally stepping on the end line, and Missouri was saving balls in, and balls were bouncing off the backboard to Missouri players. And yes, some of it is hustle and make your own luck, but sometimes you are lucky. So you can admit it's a combination of both, but you're not just lucky every game, right? I mean, at some point it ceases to be luck and starts to be a little bit about what you're doing to cause that luck. We're going to the 314 area code. Who's there?
Hey, it's Jake.
What's up, Jake? How you doing?
Doing well. Hey, I just had a couple comments. I wanted to get your insight on this. You see on the board all the time about, there are still people out there that are pessimistic about Cuonzo. I get that. But is that due to a lot of their expectations going into his tenure when he comes out and gets a top 10, top 5 recruiting class, gets the Porters, and then gets them to an NCAA tournament bid without Michael Porter Jr., and then the true rebuild starts, and rebuilds don't really show until about year 3, year 4, where he has a top 20, top 15 team. And I just wanted to get your take on if he really deserves all the blowback he gets.
Well, I think there's a few things at play here. First of all, I think we tend to focus more on negative comments. Like positive people who are happy don't tell you they're happy, right? So the people that are happy don't very often post on a message board or call into a show or tweet, wow, really happy with how everything's going. These outlets are magnets for negativity. So we have to understand that to begin with. You don't call the restaurant to say, hey, I'm really happy you gave me everything I ordered and I got home and it tasted good. But you do call them if you got home and the tomato wasn't on it and they didn't give you your fries, right? So that's part of it. Also, this is a really hard tenure to assess because it's been probably overall a little bit disappointing, but you have all the injuries that have gone into it, and also you have to take into account where this program was when he took it over. And I think part of the biggest problem here is you have a bunch of people who are around my age who have this idea of what Missouri basketball can be and has frequently been in the past, but it hasn't been that for a long time. And so that group of people wants Missouri basketball to be that right now, to be immediately, top 4 in this league, consistent basis, NCAA tournament 3 out of 4 years, all those things. Well, from the place he took over, that probably wasn't realistic. So I think it's all those things combined with the fact that the truth of the matter is, if you look at Cuonzo's history as a coach, this is about the ceiling. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't exceed that ceiling here, but I think a lot of the people who are negative, a lot of times we judge a hire the day it's made, right? Like, I didn't like it then, and here's why I didn't like it, and I'm never going to change my mind. and we all do it.
Well, I think a big thing on Cuonzo coming into was you know what you're getting. He's going to be a slow-paced offense. He's going to be a grinded-out defense. And I've always been skeptical about what he's going to change. And this year, he's let them change.
Yes.
He's got them out in transition. He's got them playing at a faster pace. And that tells me that he is able to evolve a little bit more as a coach than some may think.
Yes, this is his best. This is the best coaching job he's ever done, in my opinion.
I agree as well. I followed him, throughout his tenure and stuff like that, Tennessee and Cal. He underperformed with a big team at Cal. That's going to happen in a tournament. You can't judge a whole year based off one game in a tournament.
Right.
But as you were talking about earlier, expectations for guys your age, I'm a couple years out of college, so I've never, the first teams I can remember would be, Paulding and Arthur Johnson. So that's kind of where I'm at, and that's where recruits are at too.
Right.
And you look at the last 20 years, Mizzou's an average to maybe a little above average basketball program.
Oh, I'd say average to below average. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've,
there have been some highs, but they've never sustained it.
Yes, they've made tournament runs. They've had, a 2 Elite 8 runs with Paulding and then with DeMario Carroll, and then you've had some flops in the NCAA tournament. But Cuonzo's not exactly doing anything that nobody else did. He's doing the same stuff that Mizzou's programs kind of had expectations.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes going forward. And we've talked about this on this show before. A lot of the reason people are down is because they already have decided that next year is bad. And I just say, look, you have a good team for the first time in 8 years, and they're exciting to watch, so let's worry about next year. I hit that point probably after they beat Tennessee in Knoxville and said next year is what it is. We're going to worry about that later. But no, you bring up a lot of good points, Jake, and guess what? Some people have their minds made up, and you're never going to change them, man. Nobody's ever won a fight on the internet.
Absolutely. And you don't even know what next year's roster looks like officially.
Correct.
You go land a couple of transfers, and you're right back in the mix.
Correct.
Pinson comes back, who knows?
A long way to go. No question, man. All
right,
right, Jake, appreciate it, man. Got a couple other people on the line, so we're going to let you go. We're going to go to the 573 area code. Who do we have? The 573 area code has hung up on a 636 area code. You there?
Yeah, it's Brandon.
Hey, Brandon. How you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Mark Smith's game today. I just hopped on, so I might have missed it if you talked about it earlier. But I wanted to get your thoughts on Mark Smith. I know we kind of dog him recently for, taking a lot of threes and being kind of more one-dimensional. But I really thought today showed a lot of good defense, especially in the first half. So just curious what your thoughts were on his performance today.
I thought it was phenomenal in the first half on both ends of the floor, really. Drew Smith was probably better in the first half, but Mark was the second best player. Took some shots in the second half that in retrospect you wish he hadn't taken, but only because they didn't go in. I mean, he never took what I thought was a terrible shot. It was open, it was in rhythm, it just didn't go in. Now, some people will say, but you can't take that three with a 7-point lead with 18 on the shot clock or whatever. And I understand that. However, what's the argument we always hear when teams are blowing big leads? Well, they're playing not to lose rather than playing to win, right? And what they mean is you're dribbling for 26 seconds and then taking a bad shot. Well, Missouri was actually doing the exact opposite of that. They were playing to win with those shots. They just didn't go in. So in retrospect, they look like bad shots. Overall, I thought Mark was a net positive today. He played well on a day Missouri needed him because Javon Pickett couldn't go, and I think it just kind of it reinforces. It's almost like with this team, the guy that everybody hates, the next time out is going to make the big play, right? Like Mitchell Smith was just destroyed. After last game, it was basically, okay, we like everything about Mitchell or everything about this game, but Mitchell Smith can't ever shoot, and if he keeps shooting, he can't play. And I understand he wasn't shooting today, but he saved the game. He made the game-winning play today. So if we're mad at, I don't know, if I was going to pick somebody to be mad at in this game, it'd probably be Drew Smith, so I assume he'll come out with 34 points and 10 rebounds in the next game.
All right, thanks, Gabe. Appreciate it.
All right, Brandon. Thanks for the call, man. Thanks for being part of the show. And I think That does free up the phone line for anybody that wants to call in. There's the number, 573-234-4935. While we've got just a second, want to once again point out Burger Smokehouse. They sponsor this show for us every single time out. Go to smokehouse.com. They are a family-owned and operated business out of California, Missouri that has huge displays of their products. I mean, pulled pork, brisket, bacon, ribs, snack sticks, all kinds of stuff at pretty much every grocery store in the state of Missouri. You have to try very hard to miss that display. So please check out Burgers and appreciate everything they do for us. And while we have a minute, while the phone lines are currently empty, we'll jump to some of your all's comments. I know you guys have been active in the chat. Certainly appreciate that. I think you were going before I even got here because this game ended up going a little bit longer. But Nolan's asking where this ranks on most exciting seasons ever for Mizzou. I'm be honest, right now it's not very high for me, and there's a few reasons for that. One, I'm not going to as many games. Two, it's kind of disjointed. Like, not everybody's playing the same number of games. There wasn't a real non-conference season, all that. And I'll get back to a little bit more of that in a minute. 573 area code. Who's on the phone?
Hi, this is Morgan.
What's up, Morgan? How you doing?
Good. I was going to say, it's the last few possessions of the game there. Usually in those situations, it's usually Pinson's the go-to guy, but it looked like he didn't have any confidence at all today. There was plenty of times where he would just dribble, and you'd think he's about to drive, and he'd just pass.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something concerning going forward, or do you think it was just a bad game and he didn't have confidence for that?
Yeah, look, I'll never question Xavier Pinson's confidence. That doesn't. I mean, I was laughing with somebody last week. He went 8 for 13 in that game, right? Whoever it was against TCU, and like listening to his quotes after the game, you would have thought he shoots 8 for 13 every game, right? I mean, so no, I'm not concerned about that long term. I couldn't even say I couldn't say who was a go-to guy for Missouri because in the last 6 minutes, I don't really even know that they ran an offense. It just was hang on and hope not to give up points too quickly on the other end. So no, I'm not too worried about Pinson. I don't think it's something to be concerned about long term.
Yeah, it just looked weird that usually he's the guy, like I said, that he's the guy that takes those last second shots and he drives, and they looked like they kept wanting him to, and he just kept passing it to Drew, and Drew Smith's not really that kind of player.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the problem. They just didn't have anybody willing to kind of be that guy today, maybe, right? And maybe that led to Cuonzo talked about Tillman not being aggressive enough late too, so could have led to some of that down the stretch for sure.
I agree. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for enjoy your show.
All right, thanks a lot, Morgan. Appreciate you watching and being a part of it. I know. Hey, we had a 760 area code. We had a caller from that area code. Tried to add the call and it didn't quite work. So please feel free to call back. We've got an opening right now, and we'll get to you if you get back. But again, on where this ranks as far as exciting seasons, for some of the reasons I mentioned, it's not quite up there and we don't know where it's going to end, right? We don't know how far there is to go. Now we've got the 760 area code. My fault there the first time. Who am I talking to?
Yeah, this is Tommy. I'm out here in San Diego. I got to keep it brief. I got 3 things, though. My first time ever calling, but I listen every time. So, first of all, wasn't there a game last year that Mitchell Smith also had some, big time play at the end? I feel like there was a block where he contested a shot and sealed the game.
I think you're thinking of Reed Nico against Georgia. It was a very similar ending.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. You are. See, that's why you get paid the big bucks, Gabe.
There you go. Tell somebody to pay me the big bucks.
Hey, I subscribe, so
all right,
I'm with you, bro. I got 4 kids 7 and under at home right now, so I can't really look anything up. So that's why I need you for my info. Number 2, I guess, in the optimistic side, I kind of feel like this game will make us stronger in March, and I want to hear a little thoughts on that. And third, before I hang up, is go Chiefs. All right.
All right. The third part is the first part. I appreciate that, Tommy. Absolutely.
Hey, absolutely. All right, thanks a lot.
All right, Tommy. Appreciate you being part of it. Look, yeah, the optimistic side, you say, yeah, this could benefit Missouri down the stretch, right? They've been here, they've done this, and they've done this a lot. I mean, there have been a lot of close games. So if Missouri gets in an NCAA tournament game that's a one-possession game in the last 5 minutes, like, they're not going to panic. It's no guarantee they're going to win. They might not win, but they're not going to panic. They've been here before. They've done this all year. So, yeah, it could absolutely serve as a benefit. I mean, I think we all remember a couple years ago, Missouri blew, the LSU game was kind of the cherry on top. It was like a 13-point game in a minute and a half or something like that. But they blew 4 or 5 leads in the last 3 minutes 2 years ago. And then last year they got a little better at it. And now this year, all of a sudden, they're the exact opposite. I mean, I think they're now 6-0 in games decided by 5 points or less. So there's a growth factor there. These guys are all seniors and juniors. They've all been here before. You don't worry about the panic. I didn't think anything today was necessarily about panicking. They just all of a sudden couldn't really do anything right. Like I said, I saw a few people say, well, they're playing not to lose. Well, no, taking 3-point shots with 15 seconds left on the shot clock is actually the exact opposite of playing not to lose. That's like throwing a pass on 2nd and 2 instead of running the football and keeping the clock running, right? So it wasn't playing not to lose. It wasn't panicking. I thought the defense actually fell apart a little bit more than the offense until they absolutely had to have it. And then it showed up in the form of Mitchell Smith late. So, they deserve credit for that. It shouldn't have been that close, but once it was that close, they deserve credit for finishing it off. Dave Buck saying too much of a roller coaster. Drew and Mark disappeared in the second half. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about Mark Smith, but the scariest part, the most concerning part about that second half to me was Drew Smith. I mean, guys, as good as he was in the first half, that was a dreadful second half that Drew Smith played. And we'll talk about that a little more in a minute after we go to the 573 area code. Who am I talking to?
Gabe, this is Mike.
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Fine. Called you last game after the Kentucky game.
Yep.
We were discussing Mr. Sambody and Kobe Brown.
Yep.
You kind of see another game like that today with Kobe, kind of a Sambody-esque game.
Kobe played really well today. Yeah, I mean, hit a couple of jump shots, had, I think, 13 points and 9 rebounds. He was really the first half was more about Drew and Mark Smith. That the first 12 minutes of the second half where they kind of extended that lead, Kobe Brown was the best player on the team at that point. Played really well there for that kind of 10, 15-minute stretch.
That's what I was thinking. I'll get off here and hear your thoughts. You don't need mine. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. Appreciate the call. And, yeah, Kobe, that's a good point by Mike because Kobe Brown has kind of slipped through the cracks, but he was in the second half. Again, Drew and Mark Smith were kind of the reasons in the first half, right, that Missouri jumped out to the big lead. But then you kind of expected there was going to be a run from Alabama early in the second half, and a big reason there wasn't was because of Kobe Brown and the way he played. But, again, getting back to what we were talking about before Mike called in, and Mike and everybody who has called in so far, appreciate that. And anybody else that wants to call in, please feel free to do so. Numbers up on the screen there. But we're talking about Drew Smith, and the worrisome part to me is that's your fifth-year senior, that's your best player, and look, he's been really good a lot of times, but man, that second half was rough. I mean, on both ends of the floor, and turnovers, and just the poise wasn't there. He had one where he tried to dribble through a trap on the full-court press, had another one where he threw a really bad pass, and again, I'm not trying to pick on a guy because Drew Smith has been really good for Missouri a lot of times. But I did not think that today was one of his better games. We're going back to the 314 area code. Who am I talking with?
Hey, Gabe, this is Elias.
What's up? How you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Hanging in, man. Hanging in. Just still kind of trying to process that.
You and me both. I got one comment and then one question for you that I really love to hear your thoughts on.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, the comment. One thing that I've really just loved about really the last 3-4 years is seeing the guys who came into this program when it was just in an abyss, and seeing them contributing. Seeing Mitchell Smith, who came on Kim's last year, fought through an ACL injury, and now is playing with a lot of confidence the last couple of games, makes the play of the day today. Like, it's just so nice to see that happen to guys who stuck with the program and see them succeed. And then my question for you is about free throw shooting. So I feel like there's been a few games lately. I think about the Auburn game. I thought against Kentucky, Missouri shot under 70% from free throws. And again today, there were some big misses. Overall, the team was 9 of 14, which is 64% from the free throw line. Drew Smith missed a couple. Kobe Brown missed one. And then, Mark Smith missed. He only missed one, but I think it was the front end of the 1-and-1 at the end that, could have put Mizzou up 3 and instead gave Alabama one more chance down by 1. I mean, I'm curious because I feel like last year Mizzou shot free throws so well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of curious to see that kind of not holding up for some games this year. I'm curious, is that something that you think is a concern going forward for this team, or is this more just sometimes you miss free throws and it's still good shooters taking them?
I definitely think it could be a concern, and you're right. I mean, and this is the perfect game to point it out because last year Alabama was the opponent when Missouri set the NCAA record and made all 31 in one game, and they were a very good free throw shooting team last year. Now this year, and I'll have to look at the numbers, and I'll probably do that for Monday morning. I would bet they actually score more points from the line this year than they did last year because they get there so much. Like, they lead the SEC in free throw attempts. And a lot of the misses do come from Tillman going from like a 65% shooter to a 50% shooter, but that wasn't the case today. And today wasn't. This is the third or fourth time this year where Missouri has gone to the line just going, okay, just make one to close it out, and it hasn't happened. Kobe Brown did it in the last game. They had another instance where it happened, and they ended up getting an offensive rebound, so it didn't matter. But both, like you said, they went to the line twice today with a chance to close it out, and Kobe Brown missed the front end of a 1-and-1, and then Mark Smith missed one of two. And, it's worth monitoring, right? It's maybe not a reason to panic. Sometimes it happens, and this team could come out and go 27 of 28 in the next game, and we could kind of forget about it, but it's definitely worth monitoring. I think those crunch time kind of ice the game free throws have been an issue at times this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, hopefully it doesn't bite them, What's that?
Exactly. Yeah, I was just saying, thanks for your thoughts. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't come back to bite them in the end, and yeah, appreciate you giving your insights and answering the call.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you joining us. And now we're going to go to the 719 area code. Who are we talking with? 719 area code. You there?
Yeah.
Who am I talking to?
Bill.
What's up, Bill? How you doing, man? What's on your mind?
I'm doing pretty good. My main issue or bone with the game tonight is not guarding the inbounds pass at the end of the game.
Yep.
I'm old enough, I can remember Norm had that in a couple games and didn't do it. I just never understand that with a few seconds left. It just allows the other team to get a good shot.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Bill. I said I actually texted some of my friends before Alabama even inbounded. I said I'd foul here. You're up 3 with 4.1 seconds left. The way they shoot threes, foul. But if you're not going to foul, I didn't understand not guarding the inbound pass because – and then if you're not going to guard the inbound pass, you should be able to prevent them from completing a 65-foot baseball pass to the top of the key, right? But it was like Missouri just watched the guy catch it. I mean, it was – I thought Missouri defended that last play, honestly, really badly. I thought they did almost everything wrong and got lucky that the shot missed.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I go all the way back to some of the big games and Norm not doing that, and especially when they got somebody like Mitchell Smith or even Braun that he put some length in there and somebody that can jump and just to not have the sight line be good. Don't let them have the clear view.
What about Jordan Wilmore? He's 7'3" on the bench over there. Just go have him stand in front of the dude.
I kind of like it to have a little bit of quickness in the guy, but it just, I mean, they could, if anybody they would put there, if they're just active and moving their hands, it's just got to make that a tougher pass in. So
totally agree, and I asked Cuonzo that exact question, but I asked it as part of as the second part of a two-part question, and he chose to ignore that part of it. So I don't really know. I don't really know why he didn't guard the inbounds there.
Yeah, and I know as a fan, it's easy to be, think you're smarter than coach on some things, but that just never made sense to me because I can remember some big games in the past, and any game when I see him not do it. I mean, the whole point is to make it tough on the guy to get it thrown in, and that extra person out there just never seems to be of a benefit compared to having somebody on the guy who's inbound on the ball. So that's just my thoughts, and that other than being such a long-term fan and knowing that I couldn't relax during the second half. I just knew I just couldn't relax.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the call, Bill. Thanks a lot, man, and thanks for watching.
All right. Thanks for your show. Appreciate it.
All right, have a good one. Look, I totally agree with Bill. And I said I thought Missouri mishandled almost every part of that last defensive possession. I would have fouled. I would have guarded the inbounder. Once I didn't guard the inbounder, I would have not allowed such an easy completion on the baseball pass. It worked out. They missed the shot. It worked out. I did ask Cuonzo about it. He didn't really seem particularly interested in talking about. I mean, he said they never considered fouling. They just weren't going to give up any easy threes. And like I said, he I don't know whether he just kind of didn't hear or didn't want to talk about why he didn't guard the inbounds. Either way is possible. I mean, he answers questions usually. I don't think he's dodging it, and it's fine. I get you ask two questions at once. A lot of times you don't get one answered. And hey, I'm not saying I know more about basketball than Cuonzo Martin, but that possession, I did not think Missouri handled it well, but it worked. They won, got a little lucky, but sometimes you need a little luck, right? So let's see if we are going to continue to roll through some of these comments, and you guys have been busy, I know, talking with each other. T-Rise was asking if Kentucky or Bama led. Kentucky never led. Missouri led for 39 minutes and 7 seconds of that game. It was tied at 3. Alabama did lead in this game early, but Missouri led for the last 37-25 of this game. So, Bama got it to 66-65. That was the only time they were close. So Missouri led total. I believe the total lead time was 37-25. But hang on, I'm sorry, 37:07. Missouri led for 37 minutes and 7 seconds. Alabama led for 1:33. So obviously, overall, start to finish, Missouri was the better team. It was just for those 6 minutes, Alabama was so much better that it really closed the gap and evened things out. But hey, Missouri won the game, right? And you don't apologize. You never apologize for winning the game. Missouri is in second place in the SEC standings. Alabama obviously still in first. Alabama is 10-1, and what this does is it keeps some level of hope alive for Missouri to win the SEC. Now, I'm going to be honest. It's not very likely. And the reason it's not very likely is because of Alabama's schedule the rest of the way. And let me go to that. So Alabama's 10-1, Missouri is 6-3. Everybody else has already lost 4 games. So no matter what else happens, LSU doesn't play today, Florida doesn't play today. I think Arkansas doesn't play today, so they're all going to remain 6-4. Tennessee plays Kentucky. Tennessee comes in 5-4. Kentucky's 4-5. But here is Alabama's schedule after today. So they have at South Carolina should be a win, versus Georgia should be a win, at A&M should be a win, versus Vanderbilt should be a win. Then they finish with at Arkansas, at Mississippi State, and home against Auburn. Alabama's going to be favored in every one of those games except maybe at Arkansas. So they're going to be picked to finish 16-2 in this league. If they do that, nothing Missouri can do can close that gap because Missouri's already lost 3. But let's say even that they lose 2 more and end up with 3 losses, and I think losing more than 2 more is unrealistic. Now, Missouri has a nice little stretch coming up at Ole Miss, home against Arkansas, at Georgia, at South Carolina, home against Ole Miss, and home against A&M. Like, you could see 6-0 in that stretch. If that were the case, then you're at Florida in a game you have to win at the end of the year to go to 13-3 in the SEC. And now that's when we get into that LSU game and that Vanderbilt game that Missouri didn't get to play that are hanging out there. There is a scenario in which Missouri finishes 13-3, Alabama finishes 15-3. Alabama has a better winning percentage and gets the 1 seed, even though Missouri beat them and has the same number of losses because Missouri lost games to COVID. I mean, that's a lot of things would have to happen for it to get there, but the scenario does exist where those games could really cost Missouri. Again, I don't think they're getting there. Today, I said this on the pregame show, today was more about protecting yourself from the group of LSU, Arkansas, Florida, and Tennessee catching you than it was about catching Bama. Catching Bama is not very realistic. You're better off, those teams I just mentioned, Missouri, Arkansas, LSU, Florida, and Tennessee. 2 of them are not going to finish in the top 4. 2 of them are going to miss that first-round bye. So the key for Missouri is to be one of the 3 that gets the first-round bye. And today was a big step toward that because one of the tiebreakers eventually in the SEC will be how did you fare against, and it goes just in order of finish, the first-place team, the second-place team, the third-place team, all that. So this is a win that helps Missouri in that regard, certainly. So let's see. Throw up a couple more of your comments. And once again, anybody that wants to call in can call in. We've generally been going an hour 15 on this show. We're right at just right under an hour now. So, but it's an early game. If you guys want to go a little longer, we can if there are calls. If not, we'll probably get everything up on the website, all that, and start Super Bowl pregame. But Tucker says, I think we've earned top 10 status now. Yeah, Missouri's 18th. They beat Kentucky and Alabama this week. They could be in the top 10. I'd have to look at what else happened this week. We're going to the 636 area code. Who are we talking with?
Hey, Gabe. This is Brandon again. I called a little earlier.
Yeah, what's going on?
Wanted to also ask, I saw some threads on the message board about this. Wanted to get your thoughts on Cuonzo Martin in terms of SEC Coach of the Year. I know obviously him and Nate Oates are right at the top there in terms of teams in the conference. I know Alabama was picked higher preseason than Mizzou was in the conference. I think they were picked 5th and 10th respectively. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of that Coach of the Year race and how that might shape up the rest of the year after this game.
Yeah, I think it's clearly one of those two. It depends a little bit on what happens. I mean, I'd have a really hard time, especially after they were 5-4 in the non-con. If Alabama goes 16-2 in the league, I've got a really hard time not giving it to Nate Oates. Now, like you said, they were thought to be a little bit better. And Coach of the Year tends to end up being an award who overachieved of what we thought. Whether that's how it should be or not, that's what it always ends up being. So Cuonzo is going to probably overachieve by more than Oates does. But I think Missouri's got to finish with no more than like 3 or 4 losses in the league for Cuonzo to have a shot. If they're second and they're a game or 2 behind Alabama, he could win it still. But they can't be any further behind than that. And I don't really see anybody else who could win it. I mean, you can't give it to Will Wade. You can't give it to Rick Barnes at this point. Mike White. I mean, his team's dealing with a lot, but I don't think they were preseason thought to be better than this, and I understand the circumstances. But it's Cuonzo or Oates. I'd lean Oates today, but Cuonzo could do enough to get it.
Gotcha. And just a follow-up to that, I guess, do you see any way that they don't throw out an extension for Martin after this year? I mean, I know he's got a few years left, but, obviously in college sports, seasons like this, it's really hard to see them not trying to, re-out them for a few more years on the end there.
Yeah, I think he's got 2 years left after that. Could be 3 years. I'll have to go back and look because at one point, I think he originally signed a 6-year deal, and then he automatically got a 1-year extension after he made the tournament in the first year.
Okay.
So I think he's technically got 3 years left. I probably wouldn't, honestly. I would probably want to see what next year looked like a little bit, and just make sure this is sustainable. Now, look, if he's making demands, I mean, I don't think Cuonzo's a guy that does that a lot, but if he comes and wants an extension, yeah, you talk about it. But if it's just up to me, I'm probably waiting to see what next year looks like before I go beyond 3 years would be 2025. I probably wouldn't do that quite yet.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks, Gabe. Appreciate it.
Yep. Appreciate the call, Brandon. Thanks a lot, man. And appreciate all you guys who have called. Certainly been a part of the show. Everybody who's been busy over in the chat section. And we've tried to get to some of that. And we will do that. Let's see. I am kind of starting to roll through this. I want to be clear, Kevin, it was not my dog that appeared on the show. That was on a caller's end. So my dog was not in this room, and that was not my dog. He rarely barks also. Let's see. Too much. Ryan Owen says too much to enjoy to worry about next year. I completely agree with that. Totally agree there. Let's see. Jeffrey brings up a good point. Mitchell Smith made the last field goal they made in the game. He did with 6:13 left. He also made the block. Mitchell Smith was big in this game. Ed's asking the ceiling and the floor for this team. I mean, look, they can make a Final Four. I mean, they've, their last 3 games have been TCU, Kentucky, Alabama. That's the type of competition you'll face in in 3 straight NCAA tournament games, and then throw in a Monmouth or whatever you're going to play in round 1. So they can make a Final Four. The floor is losing in the first round. I mean, they're going to make the tournament. We know that at this point. They can't exactly lose out, but they're not going to lose out. A couple more wins and they're locked in. But they could lose in round 1. And I've said, here's the goal to me is to win the first round tournament game. Because as of Selection Sunday, somebody counted for me the other day, it will have been 4,013 days since Missouri won an NCAA tournament game. The first goal is just get that monkey off your back. Win the first tournament game in 11 years. Then, hey, if you make the second weekend, if you move on, that's phenomenal. You should be happy with that. But I'm not going to be super upset as long as they win 1. I think that's the goal. We're going to the 618 area code. Who am I talking to?
Hey, Gabe, it's Brendan.
What's up, Brendan? How are you, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. Hey, just wanted to bring up a point that I think you actually brought up on Twitter. The idea that this team has kind of a strength in numbers quality. You get 69 points from X and Tillman a week ago, and then probably not a whole lot from them today. But then you get other contributors, whether it was Kobe or Mitch or Mark or Drew. I think the best part of this team is the idea that if a couple guys aren't producing, that there's other people on the team that take over. And I think just kind of what your thoughts on that, is it really like you said, they find ways to win regardless of whether they blow leads, whatever it is. I think there's an idea of it doesn't matter who steps up, but someone always takes over the game. And it doesn't always have to be the same person each time.
Right.
But I'll hang up and listen.
Appreciate the call, Brendan. Thanks a lot. And Cuonzo talked about that, actually said one of the strengths of this team is they all like each other, and they don't care who scores the points or who makes the big play, right? I guarantee those guys are all really happy for Mitchell Smith in the play he made today. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be the same guy. Like, there are a lot of teams where, hey, you're turning into the same guy every game, and that can work too. But it also can work this way, where one day it's Drew Smith, and the next day it's Pinson, and the next day it's Tillman, and the next day it's Kobe Brown, and then it's Drew Smith again, and then it's Mitchell Smith. That's okay too. That's worked for this team. And they keep finding ways, and they keep getting contributions from different guys, which tells me they're bought in. They all know their roles. They're all playing their roles. So those things are all positive for this team. And you know, I think this show has made me think, the last hour has made me think more. I came into this thinking the bigger story was the last 6 minutes and 15 seconds, and now I think the bigger story was the first 34 minutes and how they got there, because that's more indicative of the team they've been this season and the season that they've had, I think. So, you know, certainly I think that Missouri deserves a lot of credit. I think Cuonzo Martin deserves a lot of credit. It was... Look, this is just what this team is, right? They're cardiac. I mean, in the last 7 days, they've now won a game. They trailed by 12 with 4 minutes left and almost lost a game they led by 22 with 6 minutes left. But the only commonality in those games is that they won them both. And in the end, that's what you're here. You play to win the games, right? That's what Herm told me way back when. So Missouri did that, did it again. They are now, 13-3. They're 6-3 in the league. And they've got 6 straight games, guys, that they're going to be favored in all 6. At Ole Miss, home against Arkansas, at Georgia, at South Carolina, home against Ole Miss, home against A&M. They're going to be favored to win all 6 of those games. If they do that, they're going to be sitting 19-3 and 12-3 in the SEC. That's 2-seed territory. Maybe 3-seed, maybe. I'm not saying they get there necessarily, but that's what I mean. I'm just going to run through the KenPom predictions real quick. At Ole Miss, pick to win by 2, 55% chance. Home against Arkansas, pick to win by 2, 56% chance. At Georgia, pick to win by 5, 67% chance. At South Carolina, pick to win by 2, 60% chance. Home against Ole Miss, pick to win by 6, 70% chance. Home against A&M, pick to win by 11, 85% chance. So, like, they're not gimmies, but they're going to be picked to win their next 6 games. If they do that, they are 19-3. And there's not a lot to nitpick about 19-3. So, exciting win, good win, you know, probably signature win, honestly, of this season. I think you can argue this is the best team Missouri's beaten this year. All good things, right? So they play against Ole Miss Wednesday night. We will do the 5-7-3 report this week on Tuesday. We will pregame Ole Miss on Wednesday. We will do absolutely nothing tomorrow other than watch TV. I'm going to have about 9 hours of pregame, I think, and then I heard there's a sporting event on tomorrow, so I'm going to watch that. But want to thank all you guys for taking part in the show and appreciate all the comments. I'm sorry we didn't get to a ton of them. We had a lot of phone calls. That's kind of the way it goes sometimes. But definitely appreciate you guys being part of the show, both in the chat and on the phone line. Appreciate Burger Smokehouse for being our sponsor and our partners throughout football and basketball season. Once again, you can go to smokehouse.com or any local grocer and find their stuff. Please do that. Please, before you leave, do 2 things. Hit the like button on the show. Hit the subscribe button to the channel. You'll always be able to find out when we go live. Mitchell 40 is working on plenty of content for the site. I'm about to put up Cuonzo's video and write some wrap-up thoughts for our message board, so you can check that out. Thanks for being part of the show, and we'll talk to you again soon.